I'm the dude. So that's what you call me.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah, not since I was 10.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Come on to the coast. We get together, have a few laughs.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
Welcome back to Movie Mingle. I'm Caveman.
And I'm Maggie.
And today we are doing a bonus episode for June. And since June is Pride Month.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Last year we did Tu Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar.
A forever classic.
And this year we chose to do The Birdcage.
A forever classic.
1996, starring Robin Williams and Nathan Lane and Gene Hackman.
The Birdcage is a seminal classic, like, comedy farce film, and has stated on this podcast before, I believe, farce is my particular favorite type of comedy. Some of the best Frasier episodes are the ones that are most farcical. Any time where there's a lot of like nonsense going on screen, people running around, misconceptions, mistaken identities, things falling over, like it's just, God damn it, it gets me every time. And this particular movie is so good at it. Well, I have to sneeze.
You're a pure soul, but you didn't say God bless you when I sneezed.
This is a movie that I grew up watching in my family. Like, this is one of my father's favorite films, my mother's favorite films, which is funny because Armand and Albert kind of remind me of my mom and dad when they were, together and happy. But yeah, the Birdcage is a great film that I've known from my youth. I mean, I don't think we saw it in theater, but I definitely saw this movie a lot at home. Like, I know we owned the VHS. Yeah. And, that's pretty progressive for my family because it is a movie about openly gay men and drag and all these other wonderful things. But it's so fucking funny.
It's so funny.
It's such a funny movie. And it's just such a surprisingly heartfelt movie, too. And it's so goddamn funny
it's so well done.
Like, it made us all laugh. And so, it was one of the many little things, I think, that helped break down the barrier of, getting gay culture into a mainstream audience. Because it helped for my family. And, this is a very important film in gay culture. Whether or not any of the younger queens have seen it remains to be seen. But yeah, it's a really, really great film. And although there are a lot of jokes and a lot of jokes at the expense of all the characters, it never once is like making fun of gay people.
No, it doesn't make fun of
putting them
gay
down
people. No.
or... And, like, the way that they handle the Republicans and conservatives in this movie is still just, like, the scandal. Anyways, we'll get to that. It's a great film. I love this movie. Can't wait to talk about it.
Spoilers. Well, one of my favorite, I've said this before, one of my favorite farcical type films, because, they do it so well in Frasier. But one of my favorite films that they did it off was based off of the stage play Noises Off.
Yeah, I would love to rewatch that movie. It's been a very long time.
Michael Caine, Carol Burnett,
Caine.
Christopher Reeve, John Ritter. Yeah, great cast, great movie, great stage play that I've seen it done live. Mm-hmm. But it works really well in the movie as well. The Birdcage was directed by Mike Nichols. He's an Oscar-winning director that he got for directing The Graduate, which I hope people have seen. It's a good movie.
I think I've seen parts of The Graduate, but not as a conscious adult. Let's just put it that way.
It's been a while for me.
Yeah, I definitely haven't done anything.
It was definitely in my younger years trying to watch some older films.
Yes.
He got many other awards for The Graduate, including a BAFTA and a Golden Globe. He also directed Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Catch-22, Working Girl, Regarding Henry with Harrison Ford, which I really like.
Postcards from the Edge, which was a Carrie Fisher written film about her own life.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Primary Colors.
He also directed the movie Closer with Natalie Portman and Jude Law, Clive Owen, and Julia Roberts, which I remember watching as like an older teenager when it came out, but I only watched it because they used Damien Rice music in it, and that's why I got it. I don't remember much about that film other than it was very talky. Mike Nichols is one of those like celebrated directors that had been around forever, has done a ton of things. He's gone now. He died in 2014. But yeah, he was a very important and prominent director for a very long time. And, as much as I've seen a handful of his films, I can't say for sure what his like directing style was like, but I don't know, I haven't heard many bad things about the guy, and he gave us the Birdcage, and if nothing else, God, this movie is great.
La Cage aux Folies. Don't know if that's actually how you pronounce that. I don't speak French. But that was the original French play. The playwright was Jean Poiret. He created the play in 1973.
There is a movie version of...
I know there's a French
that
film
we can watch on Prime. I think it would be fun to watch it.
It would be fun.
Yeah.
I was looking through them because there are 3. Because, of course, they made 3. Because why not? The first... And it's, La Cage aux Folies, or better known as The Cage of Mad Women.
There's nothing like a mad woman.
The movie was made in 1978. It stars Ugo Tognazzi, who's a famous Italian actor, taking on the Robin Williams role, but named Renato Baldi. And then Michael Schuralt plays Albin Mugoret or Mugote. I can't do it, but that was also known as Zaza Napoli.
Zaza Napoli. What a great drag name.
Michael Schuralt, who plays Zaza, got to go from the stage play to the film, but Jean Poiret, who wrote the play, created the play, was not asked to do
Come
the
back
same.
for the film,
He was replaced, and Wikipedia even said replaced by a famous Italian actor. But the first movie, very simple. It's the manager of a Saint-Tropez. Is that like a fancy term for burlesque?
No, it's the name of the city that it takes place in.
Oh, cool. I don't know France. Featuring drag entertainment, and his star attraction are a gay couple. Oh, surprise. Madness ensues when his straight son brings home a fiancée and her ultra-conservative parents to meet them. Pretty straightforward.
It's such a straightforward idea, right? It's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. It's the dinner scene in Shrek 2. It's, the mixing of 2 different ideologies and lives and watching chaos come from that. It's always entertaining.
Well, part 2, just to up the ante, because you gotta, what can you do for part 2?
Yeah.
The titular gay couple become involved with local cops and foreign spies when one of them unwittingly obtains a roll of stolen microfilm.
Ah, jeez, that sounds too much like Cars 2.
They've turned into... Oh my God. Ew. It is.
Cars 2 is one of the worst films
Fast
ever
and Furious.
made.
Fast and Furious is also like, hey, we need this.
But, Fast and Furious did turn into, it's all spies and fucking James Bond and Mission Impossible nonsense.
And then part 3, I don't think anybody could even guess what part 3 is about.
Oh, boy.
But here we go. It is called part 3, The Wedding. So finally you're like, yay!
We get to see the wedding.
We get to see... the son and the daughter-in-law finally get married.
Yeah.
Well, not so much. Drag queen Albin can inherit a fortune from a distant relative, but must marry a woman and have a child within 1 year, or lose it all, complicating his life with partner Renato.
Okay. Yeah, no, they were just trying to milk some money.
They were
just making. I'm
throwing
so glad
whatever popular French food against the wall and see what stuck. Crepe?
throwing crepes.
Throw crepes? Is that?
They're throwing. No, thank you.
What do you say, Suzette? You want a crepe? No, thank you.
I mean, I would like to at least watch the first French
Yeah.
version just to see what differences there are. I know that the director, Mike Nichols, the production designer, and screenplay writer, Elaine May, all went to different burlesque shows around the country. First, they went to Chicago. They went to Savannah, Georgia. And originally they wanted the movie to be set in New Orleans. And after going to their third place, which was South Beach, Florida, they decided, holy shit.
Yeah, because
this
South
has to
Beach
be
is hella gay.
and
I don't mean that in like, ew, it's gay, Roy. I mean, it is gay.
Yeah, I can only imagine the
Especially
burlesque
in the
show.
early 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine? I'm sure it was very tame in the movie compared to
I mean,
what a South
you're
Beach
saying
burlesque show.
burlesque, but we should call it for what it was. It was
It
drag.
was drag. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a drag show. Yeah.
Burlesque
I don't know why.
being-
Burlesque is very different than
Yeah.
drag. Yes, they are drag shows.
Apparently Mike Nichols hired somebody to put together and then travel around the world to create a documentary on the art of drag that they then used for Nathan Lane and Robin Williams to like do their research off of.
Okay.
I want to see that documentary.
That would be really cool.
I mean, so we have Paris is Burning, which is from the early 90s, which is a look at the club and ball scene of queer identity in the early 90s. But it's a look at, the queer culture, a particular type of queer culture, no less, of, the early 90s and the ball scene. And from it, we've gotten some, iconic quotes. It was a very seminal documentary about the life of these young queer people. And, in the midst of the AIDS epidemic, no less. And, not all of them survived for various reasons. Some were murdered, some died of AIDS. I mean, it was all, it's kind of more tragic than anything. But there's a very little that I'm aware of like any sort of footage or stories or documentaries about early queer culture. And I think that those things should be released. And if not, maybe they should just be more readily available, and maybe I need to hunt them down. If you have any ideas for any great queer documentaries about life as a, in the early to mid 90s, you can send them over to us at movieminglepod@gmail.com. But yeah, they're the really important things that young queer people today should watch to kind of understand. We all know that it hasn't been roses for the LGBT
There's got to
community.
be something out there. There's got to be a documentary.
But yeah, it would be
Something
I would love to
is out
specifically watch the documentary that they made for just the creation of
Sure,
this film.
of this film. For
Because the drag in this movie is spectacularly good. It is on par with Tu Wong Fu, if not even better.
I did like, honestly, the drag in this one compared to Tu Wong Fu. I feel like because they were made around the movies were made very close to each
Tu
other.
Wong Fu was
right?
95, I believe.
Yeah, and this was 96.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, when we did Tu Wong Fu, I remember saying I feel like they could have done more research for what drag looked like.
Well,
And I know that there are different. We talked about it. There are different types of drag.
And different
It's
things.
just,
but
what drag looked like, even in the movie, like with other characters that were at the beginning, I just feel like those three characters could have done more to make them look like those same drag queens. All this to say, you guys could go back and listen to Tu Wong Fu because we've had this whole conversation before.
Well, and then also the other thing about Tu Wong Fu is that these queens are in drag the entire movie.
Yes, and that's also something that...
Like, you'd think that it'd be easier for three men, effeminate though they may be, to drive cross-country. That's a lot safer for, especially back then, for people, of queerness to
and
do.
We talked about before that it's not really a thing for a drag queen to just always be in drag.
Always in drag, Were they very fancy trans women? Is Albert trans? There's a lot to read into all of these things.
Of course.
But the drag is spectacular. And
needless to say, back to Birdcage.
Yeah, back to Birdcage.
They did a great job.
Mike Nichols utilized drag in such a wonderful way. It is never made fun of. It is never looked down on. It is shown as a high art, and it's a delight. It's a delight. There's so much love of drag and queer culture from this movie, and I think that's wonderful, especially for 96.
Somebody else whose music had a hand in this film was Stephen Sondheim.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Sondheim. He created an original piece called Little Dream just for the movie. And then they also added they also used a couple of his other stuff, like Can That Boy Foxtrot from Follies and Love is in the Air from A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum.
I don't know Sondheim's work as well as I should. I am not as into musical theater as one might think me to be. I love a good musical. I enjoyed the hell out of Hamilton. Chicago, of course. The original Cabaret, absolutely. But I don't know a lot of, when it comes to like Broadway musicals, I'm more or less fairly lost when it comes to all of that. But I know so much about Stephen Sondheim and what a joy he was as a human being. How creative he was, what great songs he wrote. I would like to be able to deep dive a bit more into that man and his work.
Those plays. And
I do know that Nathan Lane would go on to star in a production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum following the release of The Birdcage and won his first Tony because of it. Yeah.
And that was something about the French actor who played that Nathan Lane character who went from the stage play to that French film. He won a Caesar Award for that role.
The Caesar being like the French Tonys?
It's like the French Oscars.
Oh.
Because it was for the movie,
Gotcha.
the French movie.
Yeah.
Which is once again funny because the playwright got kicked out of the movie, or at least they decided to go a different direction for the acting. So it obviously wasn't like had a bad performance or anything. I think they said that they did like over 1,000. I can't remember the exact number. It was like 1,800 maybe performances of this in France.
The guy could have been busy. He could have not chosen
to do it.
It
did say that the film made him very successful. Now, a big surprise when I found out was that the cinematographer was Emmanuel Lubezki, who has worked on movies like Children of Men and Great Expectations and Gravity from Alfonso Cuarón, Birdman and The Revenant from Alejandro Inarritu, The Tree of Life and The New World from Terrence Malick. I know we have feelings about him.
We have feelings about Terrence Malick.
Those are still pretty big films for a cinematographer to be in.
I mean, the palm trees looked great in this movie, so...
This movie looked really great. It was shot really well.
Beautiful.
And it makes sense because Emmanuel he's an amazing cinematographer. Some of the camera shots that he gets in things like Children of Men or Birdman or The Revenant are just so jaw-dropping. And yeah, the long shots that he does, even in a movie like The Birdcage, which I think this is the first time I even really noticed the cinematography of this film. Of course, the last time I watched this film, and you as well, was before Robin Williams died.
It was right after Robin Williams died.
You watched this right after?
We did.
Oh, we did?
We turned it on.
We turned it on, but we
couldn't finish it.
We don't count that.
Well, I don't know. That was the last time I vividly remember trying to give this movie a chance. Was right around the time that Robin Williams died. Growing up, I saw this movie. I've seen this movie countless times.
Sure.
But I felt like last night was the first time I have seen
it.
This movie.
Yeah.
I picked up on jokes I hadn't clocked before. I picked up on how amazing the cinematography was. I always remembered the set design being beautiful, but now I'm like, the set design is insane. The wallpaper, the use of color, when they de-drag everything, even that set design is incredible. Really having a chance to like get into this film and watch it. And I've said it a million times before, this podcast has changed how I've watched movies. So it's fun to go back and rewatch some of these things and really watch it. This cinematography is gorgeous.
So great.
When Albert is sitting at that bus station and that giant cruise ship.
Which was probably just
just
like,
happenstance.
Yeah, they probably were just shooting for a while. Probably did the scene a few times, and that one time they get that big ship
passing
going through,
by, and it looks great.
It's so beautifully framed. The slow zoom in, and then you could tell that they do a quick cut to a more zoomed in on the two of them talking on the bench. That could have been, from take 2 or 3 or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything about that scene was just beautiful.
What blew my mind, one of my favorite bits of cinematography in that scene or in that film is because, first of all, the whole thing is filmed like a play, right? It is long periods of the scene. It's a lot of pages.
Following characters through
the whole scene. And when Val, the son, comes downstairs to talk to his dad about the fact that his in-laws are coming to town, right? While they're doing practice for one of the performances, rehearsals. That's the word I'm thinking of. And it follows. Val gets up and he heads back upstairs, and it follows him like through the door, and then it kind of pulls back, and then it pulls forward again, and like it's just this. It is. The camera's almost locked on Val, and everybody else behind the scenes, behind him and in front of him, are just going about the scene.
It zooms in as he walks upstage onto the stage, and then it zooms out when he gets behind Nathan Lane.
Yeah, and it's spectacularly well done. And I had never noticed what a beautiful bit of camera work and cinematography that was. I even made Caveman go back and rewind it. This movie is so beautifully shot.
There's this really pretty moment of Robin Williams just sitting on, I guess, their outdoor patio, I guess, or
they're sitting in the backyard.
Yeah, in the backyard or whatever it is, and they want to give you a big wide shot. I mean, I'm sure most of the interior was probably all on stage, and even some parts of that patio that when it's closer is probably on stage too, but then they do this really nice
gorgeous wide shot
to show you the city behind their building, and to show you kind of like the wall and roof of the building that they're on,
and the sunset and everything.
Yeah, and all those colors and the building colors and everything. And I had to rewind it because I was like, "Wait a minute, that looked like a matte painting."
It's one of the most beautiful matte paintings.
It was a really pretty matte painting, and it just fit. So, and when you're just looking at Robin, or when you kind of glance up and look at the distance, you're not really looking at the thing that my eye caught was the wall that was next to Robin Williams, right above his head, because you could tell that it was drawn compared to just looking like an actual wall. And if you're just looking at Robin or the cityscape, you wouldn't really care or notice. And it's real quick too, but it's just enough to give you that beautiful wide shot of South Beach. And
it's just spectacular.
Such a pretty movie.
Yeah. The use of matte paintings, it's not done as much anymore, if at all anymore.
No.
And it's always going to be one of my favorite tricks of old Hollywood. They're like, you see this vast scene of all these stormtroopers standing in the fucking belly of the Death Star 2 when Emperor Palpatine comes on board, and you swear
that it's all
real.
Extras.
Yeah, it looks as real as can be.
Hangar.
And every single fucking one of those people is painted and it's just the most incredible thing.
Pretty. Such a lost art.
It really is, and it's not something that's even appreciated. And
when
not
it
only
does
is we don't do it, but it's not appreciated.
When it does show up, when new directors, or not new, but veteran directors, especially when they'll still, I'm just going to throw it in right there, or something hand animated, just to keep that old style, that old Hollywood look, or just old school filmmaking in general, not even Hollywood.
It's a really fun thing as fans of film to see,
Cinematographer Lubezki also worked on such films like Burn After Reading with Brad Pitt, Ali, Sleepy Hollow, Meet Joe Black, which also has some really great framed scenes and long shots, like Water for Chocolate, the Mexican film from 1992. In college, I had to read the book and watch the movie. So that's why I threw that one in there, because I was like, oh, I know that movie. I believe he's working again with Alejandro Inarritu soon. Like, I think next year they got a movie coming out. It's untitled, but I know my friend and I will be very happy to find out what that is, because we like watching those two guys work together. Rotten Tomatoes has The Birdcage at an 84% from critics and an 81% from audiences.
Okay.
Letterboxd gave it a 3.9, and Metascore has it at a 71, and IMDb has it a 7.2, which I think is probably the closest I've ever seen Metascore and IMDb come to an agreement on a movie.
That's a great film. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they dislike this movie.
So that's an average of 77%.
You know,
I'd love for it to be higher, especially, I mean, maybe it's because a lot of those people who looked at it haven't watched it in a while.
well, and also, I mean,
swear, it's a whole nother movie now.
Fuck, it really is these days. Again, I think that it's a lot of, like, you know, Letterboxd and Rotten Tomatoes are not around when this movie came out in 96. So, I mean, Rotten Tomatoes might have been, but it wasn't heavily used the way that it is now. And so I think that for a lot of people, it's a nostalgia factor, right? When they go on and rate them. If I were to go on to Letterboxd and rate this movie, I would be coming from it from a point. Well, I mean, I have just recently seen it, but it still would become, you know, I'm pulling it up because of the nostalgia of it.
Sure.
But also, like, this movie came out in 96 when being gay was still a far-fetched idea for most Americans, right? Even though they knew gay and trans people, they did not know that there were gay and trans people around them, because it was still a lot harder for the queer community to be out and open. It was, you know, it was a lot harder back then. It still is very hard for us now, but it was, you know, hard back then for different reasons. So I could see a lot of critics also being like, it was very funny, but I don't know about them gays. You know, I'm sure that a lot of people went into this movie being like, oh, movie about gay people? I don't know. But really is ultimately a story about family.
But
But
I feel like, I mean, audiences, of course, their vote is going to be swayed by all sorts of things. I've always felt that a lot of critics, at least when I read critic reviews, they always seem to be a little more accepting.
Mm-hmm. Well, because a lot of people in the arts are queer and or no queer people.
And critics have seen more than just what's popular.
Yeah.
You know, that's the other thing, that if more people watched more films, especially films that either made them uncomfortable or films that they normally wouldn't pick.
Or films about subjects that they don't know much about.
That they don't know much about, which is
Yeah.
where documentaries come in.
Yeah.
Real great. This film was made for $31 million, which 96 is quite a bit.
I mean,
but it's not like
set design, the cast, the costumes, the having to film in Florida. I can see it. It doesn't seem like that's an outrageous number either in one way or the other.
Back then.
Not for a comedy.
For a comedy with not a lot of sets, and they're on location in South Beach, but it's mainly a lot of exterior shots, and occasionally you'll see they did do like walk and talks around the neighborhood, which was fun to watch, and sometimes looked fake, just looked like a stage.
Yeah, you and I got into a couple points where you're like, that is a stage, and I'm like, that is real.
But I've seen, like, they are so clever with, like, okay, there's a palm tree leaf moving in the background.
No, you have to look beyond the background to, like, the weather and the life beyond that. Like,
I don't know.
Well, first of all,
movie trickery is so good
but that
I
building
can believe that it's. I know that building is, which you could recreate on the side.
Why would you?
I'm just talking about the side.
There's just a facade of it.
Where it's just a blue wall.
But why would you spend that money?
You can't even tell that it's a hotel.
Why would you spend that money when you could just have your actors on
now
location?
I know that. Just because you can go on location doesn't mean you do.
Well, when you're making a movie in 95, because that's probably when it's filmed, for $31 million, you're not building a set when you can just go to some place that looks just like it. Like, it's not Middle Earth. It's not like they had to create it from the ground up. It's like South Beach exists.
Sometimes going on location is more expensive than building a set.
Not in 96. Going to Florida. Florida.
Well, with a small cast, too, so it's not like you had to bring a huge production.
Yeah, like, I don't think... I mean, they had some scenes of Gene Hackman in Florida, but not a lot.
Well, it made 124 domestically and 61 internationally.
Great.
and then $800,000 on home media.
We owned it.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, speaking of home media, and this is a real quick aside, but the other day I was with a friend of mine in a vintage store, and the vintage clothing store was very, like, 90s coded, and there were a bunch of fucking younger kids. What are they, Gen Z, younger? They were all in there looking at these, like, T-shirts with the Tasmanian devil on them and fucking, like, Spawn and shit. And I was just like, oh my God. Like, my childhood is now a vintage clothing store. But on their wall, they were selling VHS copies of famous movies.
Oh, my God.
And I picked up the Jurassic Park VHS. By the way, first of all, Forrest Gump was being sold for like $9, which is way too fucking expensive for that piece of shit movie.
Wait, I'm sorry. So how much was Jurassic Park?
It was like $6.
So and you didn't buy it?
I didn't think of it. I'm sorry.
$6 for Jurassic Park?
It was a very long day, and it was in the middle of a very long and very hot day. It's just down the street. I can take you there.
Okay, we're going to go there.
Okay. But
I'm like, excuse me, what does this place have?
Holding this VHS in my hands, right? And the cover of it, the black cover with the Jurassic Park logo and everything.
I used to have it and don't anymore.
And then I turned it over and saw the pictures of, like, Dr. Grant at the Tyrannosaurus thing.
I love those old VHS back.
Yeah, it had like the little
couple
stills, a couple stills,
and
description,
then
the description, and then the credits at the bottom. And like, I even smelled
FBI
it.
warning.
I was like, it smells the same. But yeah, it was such a weird thing to hold that in my hands again and just be like, oh my God.
If it's a little bit of an extra long movie and it's been in the VCR for a while and you take it out, and you smell it's like that really warm plastic smell.
We own the Birdcage on VHS. I know it for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. I can still see like the cover of it in my head.
And those things weren't cheap back then.
They were. I mean, they were all about $20-$30. They were kind of the same cost of what a DVD.
In the late 90s, in the mid to late 90s, they could get up to about $50. In the early 90s, they were like $100. Because it was a new technology.
That was in the 80s.
Like the Batman, when Tim Burton's Batman came out, that was like a $100 VHS.
Yeah, but it definitely, by the time that the Birdcage came out.
Well, yeah, sure, late 90s.
There's no way my parents would have spent that money.
$20 or $30 probably.
Yeah, $20
on a brand new VHS tape.
The same way that these days a Blu-ray is still around $20-$30. Yeah. Like, and that's what they should always kind of keep it at, because
it's a great, like, whatever new technology is, and then everything like VHS now is like $5-$10, and now you could get a DVD for. Actually, this is a quick tangent, and it's all right if everybody hears, but
it's us.
I was talking to a friend at work about. I told him, because he loves comedy, he loves superheroes. I told him he needs to watch Mystery Men. And Mystery Men is not playing on anything.
Yeah.
No streaming. And we have a local bookstore across the street that sells books and VHS tapes and DVDs
it's a used
and records
bookstore.
and comics.
So it has all that shit.
Yeah, it's everything that's just sold super cheap. And, they have a website that I can just bring it, because they have a ton of branches all over the place. And so I just typed in Mystery Men and found that there was one copy across the street, because he had never seen it. I told him who was in it, and that really got him excited. And I was like, there is one copy for $5.50 on DVD, and I will go over there and buy it for you right now, if that means that you get to watch it.
Did you?
No, because I forgot, and so now I hope he either remembered or
it's still there.
Or it's still there. And I'm gonna go get it on Friday.
Going to be there.
I know.
Like, but it's not like there's a sudden rush on people being like, "I'm gonna go buy Mystery Men from the half-price bookstore."
But I was so happy just to be able to, because he's like, I'm really into buying DVDs right now, and I was like, great. Here's one that I really recommend because it's hilarious and ridiculous. But it's got a great cast.
Eddie Izzard's in it.
Everybody. There's so many comedians.
I haven't seen that movie
so many
in so long.
90s
Do you own
comedians.
It?
Yeah.
Let's watch it tonight.
Pretty sure it's in the...
Let's get high and watch it tonight.
Oh my God, yes. Bo Welch, who did the set decoration for this film that you love so much.
I love him so much.
Back in 97, when this movie was up for Oscars, they called it Best Art Direction Unfortunately, he did not win because that year was the year that The English Patient swept the Oscars.
Oh, yeah. No, there was no beating The English Patient.
They won every technical and major award that night except for 3. Like, pretty much everything that they could be nominated for, they were nominated for. Like, every category that it was possible. Obviously, they're not going to be nominated for an animated film or an international film, so they weren't nominated. So everything that they could have been nominated for, they were nominated for and won, except for 3 films or 3 categories, which were for Ray Fiennes nominated.
Ray Fiennes has better fucking get his Oscar. It's a travesty.
It
is a travesty that he didn't get it for Conclave.
It was The English Patient that people thought he had won an Oscar for long back in 96 or 97. And it was not, because he still hasn't won. And so instead of voting, yes, win for Conclave, they're like, no, he already won for English Patient. And then he didn't win for Conclave because he also didn't win for English Patient. Stupid. Anyway, Jeffrey Rush won for Shine.
Yeah.
Which I know you haven't seen.
No, but I do love Jeffrey Rush.
And it is a great movie that I remember watching with my parents and still liking. Even as a teenager, still thought it was a really great movie. And he was really good in it. Might be problematic these days, but...
Oh, man, I was just talking to a coworker about the differences between being a sadist and a masochist, and I desperately wanted to be like, have you watched Quills?
Oh,
but then
boy.
I was like, there's no way that this woman has ever seen or heard of the movie Quills. Now I'm like, I think you need to come over and watch a movie with me,
I think
buddy.
a lot of people at a certain age, there's a younger audience that has never
heard Quills. Fuck, that movie is so sexy.
Kristen Scott Thomas was nominated for The English Patient, but Frances McDormand won for Fargo. And then lastly, Sling Blade won Best Adapted Screenplay, which the fact that you can win director, film, score, editing, cinematography, all
everything.
But then no, your screenwriting was shit though.
Yeah,
no
screenwriting, no acting.
Yeah, your acting and screenwriting didn't like that. Everything else was perfect.
Or maybe the other ones were just a little bit better. Apparently, Billy Bob Thornton and Hank Azaria are really good friends, and so they would practice because they were filming Sling Blade and the Birdcage around the same time.
Oh God!
They would practice their accents by pretending to be the character from Sling Blade and Agador Spartacus on a buddy cop adventure. Like, they would just go back and forth and improvise scenes in those different voices as those different characters. And what I wouldn't give to have seen even an ounce of just those two fucking around with each other as the guy from Sling Blade and Agador. Genius. Like, just sign me up. I would love to have seen that.
I was a little bummed looking at all of the things that this movie was nominated for, because it only got 7 awards, pretty much the entire cast, except for Robin Williams. Like, there's only a few.
So good in this movie.
Like, the MTV Movie Awards nominated him for Best On-Screen Duo. So there's Nathan Lane's got to be in there.
Yeah.
And Best Comedic Performance, which I think he nailed. It was great, but he didn't win.
Madonna.
God, that whole part. Everything he
does.
Like, yes, Nathan Lane was great. Hank Azaria was great. Even
fucking Diane Wiest is hysterical.
Diane Wiest is hilarious. Is hysterical. Gene Hackman is, of course, great. I was just kind of bummed that there was no love for Ron Williams, even though it was just perfect.
He got his Oscar for something else.
He did. Do you remember what he got an Oscar for?
Good Will Hunting.
It was for Good Will Hunting. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, I think it's his most popular famous movie.
His most popular dramatic movie. I think that Robin Williams' most popular movie, judging by my generation, is probably Mrs. Doubtfire, which is honestly a film I don't like that much. Or Aladdin. But
sure.
for his most famous, like, serious role, it's going to be Good Will Hunting, or maybe What Dreams May Come, but that depends on...
I mean, his top 4 on IMDb are Mrs. Doubtfire, 1 Hour Photo.
It's a good movie.
Good Morning Vietnam.
Never seen it.
And Mork and Mindy.
I've also never seen any Mork and Mindy.
I've never
seen
seen
clips of it.
Yeah, I've never seen Mork and Mindy. I've seen Good Morning Vietnam, 1 Hour Photo, Mrs. Doubtfire, and I've seen most of his films.
Are we getting into the cast now then?
Yeah, we should get into the cast. So our cast.
This cast is brilliant. It takes some pretty serious actors to do farce well.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And, obviously we've got two of some of the biggest comedic names of a generation in this film, but even three if you think about it. But it still takes pretty great dramatic actors to be this fucking funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're obviously not going to go through all of Robin Williams' films.
No.
Everybody knows what he's been in, but...
God, I miss him so much.
And I personally can't just pick one film out of his filmography and just be like, this is my favorite Robin Williams performance.
Oof.
But is there like at least a Robin Williams movie or a couple movies that are just
The Birdcage.
really grab on you? Birdcage?
It always has been The Birdcage. Like, we loved Robin Williams growing up, right? Like, everybody loved Mrs. Doubtfire. It's a movie that I don't feel has aged well, and I don't really care to quote the way that everybody else seems to in my life. But, Aladdin.
I grew up with Hook and Aladdin.
Hook is such a great
Mrs.
movie.
Doubtfire, Jumanji. Did you know he was in Jack?
Did you know that Jack was directed by Martin Scorsese?
Whoa. Holy shit. I didn't know that.
We have to rewatch that film. But for me, when I think of Robin Williams, I think of a very important time in my young tweendom. I had to have been around 12 to 14, somewhere in there. I had this big entertainment system in my bedroom that I'm assuming my dad got at a yard sale. And by entertainment system, it was one of those like giant pieces of furniture from the 70s that had like a tape deck, a record player, an 8-track player.
You had an 8-track player?
I had an 8-track player in my bedroom.
I didn't even have an 8-track.
And it was, all in one in this giant sort of like dresser looking thing, right? And one of the things that I had, and I'm almost positive it was on cassette, it was a copy of Robin Williams Live at the Met, a comedy special that he did in 1986 that I was then listening to in the, heydays of the late 90s, early 2000s. And that is not something that any young child should be listening to unsupervised, because in fact, he goes through the entirety of sex ed from like feeling horny to having a baby in that special, that I was listening to a little too young, and with his proclivity of swearing and a lot of like cultural references to the 80s that I didn't really get. Like, I still kind of don't know who Muammar Gaddafi is, but I listened to that thing so much that I can still quote it to this day. And if anyone around me ever says the word Mai Tai, I hear Robin Williams say, Mai Tai, Polynesian word for dumb fuck.
Then you realize the second purpose of alcohol is to make your brain a goddamn etch-a-sketch. You have a couple of cocktails, you can go, you can start over. Basically, when you realize, Mai Tai, Polynesian word for dumb fuck, yes.
We listened to it not too long ago in the car, driving home from somewhere, and I could still quote most of it from memory. And then another funny story about Robin Williams in my life is that I didn't go to a lot of school dances in high school. I wasn't a popular girl. I rarely like going to dances anyways because there's just too many people and it's loud and it's music I don't like. And I'm wearing a dress that I think is cute, but everybody else is looking at me like I'm a fucking, leper. Like, it was never something that I really liked doing. I sat out most dances, but I went to my senior prom and I wanted a date to my senior prom. And I got this guy that I thought was cute that I had known for years, Chris, sup Chris, he knew that I wanted him to take me to prom. So he asked to take me to prom. I don't know if he felt obligated or whatever. It doesn't matter. But he was my prom date. And I was in this gorgeous, handmade, bespoke dress from a pattern from the 1930s. We were going to a 1930s Spanish villa somewhere in like fucking Anaheim or Long Beach. I forget where it was. But we were going somewhere beautiful where my dress fit. I felt lovely and gorgeous. And not only did he never once tell me I was beautiful, but he talked about Robin Williams.
Oh, that's right.
His Live on Broadway, I think, which was the more recent special that had just come out. He talked about Robin Williams the entire night of our prom. The whole way down, and it was like a 2-hour drive down. The whole way back. Actually, we barely spoke on the way back because he could tell how upset I was because he didn't dance with me. He kind of ditched me with my friends for his friends. Like, it was the whole thing. He has since made up for it, and he's a very nice guy, and he's living his own life. Chris, you're great. If you're not listening to this, but if you are, I love you, man. Like, I've teased him enough about it. But my prom was ruined by Robin Williams. I love Robin Williams in the Night at the Museum movies as Teddy Roosevelt. I love Robin Williams in everything that he did, and when he died from suicide, it was devastating. Losing that man was devastating because you didn't expect him to be the type to go out that way. And of course, then everybody's like, oh, well, you don't know what's hiding behind a smile. You know, oh, depression lurks everywhere, even amongst the funniest of us. And it wasn't even that. The man was suffering from a dementia-esque disease that was taking him away, and he was afraid and he was worried, and he went out the way he went out, and it still hurts. It still hurts.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's been a decade and it still fucking hurts. And after he passed, I couldn't watch his movies.
Still haven't watched a lot of them
for a very long time.
Including this movie, I've probably watched 2 or 3, maybe.
Well, there was one weekend that you and I watched all 3 Night at Museum films, which was fun.
Sure. Yes, that did happen. I don't really count that as a Robin Williams film.
He's in it.
He's in it, but not for a long time.
Yeah.
It's not like I didn't go out immediately and watch Hook or...
No, I haven't seen Hook in
I've
years.
seen Aladdin. I have watched Aladdin because, I mean...
You
the
fall
genie's
asleep to
voice.
Aladdin
I do
a
fall asleep.
lot. Yeah.
The genie's voice is so
it's
comforting.
Great. Yeah.
It's a comforting voice.
And I understand that, but like, yeah, it's been hard to kind of go back to Robin Williams stuff, and but I was really glad. I haven't seen this movie since before he died, The Birdcage. I mean, and rewatching it and watching him exist as this sweaty, hairy, fucking goofball, it felt good.
Yeah, he was. I mean, that Broadway special was great. His HBO special is amazing.
You and I still put our face into
our elbow, and pretend like we're doing something naughty.
Oh my god!
He does. I mean, that whole scene. He's great at that.
He's great, and we miss him.
His daughter, Zelda Williams. You haven't seen it yet, but it's a great movie. She directed a movie written by Diablo Cody. Last year, the year before, called Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh yeah.
Who that alone? I mean, it's really great. And the Frankenstein's monster, or just the monster, is played by Cole Sprouse, who everybody would know as he plays
Jughead.
He plays Jughead in Riverdale, but a lot of other people would also know him as the little kid from Big Daddy. Whose nickname is Frankenstein. In that, which is funny. And he was also Ben Geller in Friends. So I think everybody should watch Lisa Frankenstein. It's a really funny...
I've heard good things. We just haven't gotten around to it.
I watched it in the theater when it came out. It was, and it came out on Valentine's Day, and it was a really sweet little movie. Next, we have Nathan Lane.
Oh, Nathan Lane. Fucking Timon.
Yes, Timon, my favorite Timon.
Dude, Billy Eichner has nothing. I mean, don't even get me started on the Lion King remake, but fucking... I adore Billy Eichner. He can be a lot and too much, but Nathan Lane was, and will always be Timon. Anyways, Nathan Lane has done... you know what I've heard a lot of good things about, and it's on Hulu, and it's a sitcom, but there's a very recent comedy called Mid-Century Modern, which is about, like these 2 young gay guys that end up going and living with an elder gay man in a very nice apartment, and I've heard really, really funny things about this particular sitcom. Nathan Lane is in everything. For fuck's sake, he's in Beau is Afraid.
Well, he hasn't been in much lately, but
No,
yeah,
but he has, right? Like, he did 10 episodes of Modern Family. He was on the last season of fucking Only Murders in the Building. Like, Nathan Lane is a national treasure who can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants, and he does just that. You know, he's Nathan Lane, for fuck's sake.
He is. That's
Yeah.
right. I forgot.
Shut up. You know, he's been in Muppet movies. He was Max Bialystock in The Producers.
Yeah, he did
which
the
he did that
remake.
all on Broadway too.
Yeah. I like that he keeps playing Timon too. Like
Yeah.
a lot of voice actors, as soon as they're done with the movie, they're like, "Well, that was fun," and they won't do a sequel. They won't do any spin-offs. Like, not only did he come back for like every sequel, but he even did like the dumb Timon and Pumbaa spin-off too, which is so. I love that.
One of my favorite. So, the Birdcage itself is Shakespearean in its story, right? It's a story of mistaken identity and hiding your true self, and you know, trying to be one thing that you're not, and all these things. Like, the Birdcage in itself is a very Shakespearean story. The Lion King is based on Hamlet. Famously, The Lion King is based on Hamlet.
Sure. Yeah.
And one of the best things to come out of Hamlet is the play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is a line that appears at the end of Hamlet when they're trying to explain where the characters Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, where they have gone. They made it into a movie with Gary Oldman and who was the guy in Four Rooms? Tim Roth. Tim Roth and Gary Oldman play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern in the movie Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is a story about existentialism and their lives, and then how it's woven into the play and how they have got to approach their eventual demise, even though those characters probably shouldn't have died. Then Disney took that idea, bringing it back, and made The Lion King 1.5, which is the Lion King version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is the story of Timon and Pumbaa and how they came to be, and then how their story is interwoven in through The Lion King. And it's brilliant.
That's so nerdy.
And it's so nerdy. And as a Shakespearean nerd, it makes me giggle. How do you not love Nathan Lane? He's like everybody's gunkle. He is just the best. I've never seen a thing in him I've never seen him in a thing that I haven't enjoyed. You know, like Mouse Hunt wasn't a great film, but he was great in it. He is spectacular in The Birdcage. He is so good in this movie. And it's like, I always remember watching this character as a young kid, as a young woman, and being like, oh, well, his character's so over the top and shrill and, right, very stereotypical, like, gay man, because, oh, he's a gay man, but he really wants to be a woman. And whether or not Albert eventually becomes trans, or was, you know, trans in the beginning, but didn't, you know, even though the terminology was there,
I don't
for
think
a movie, blah, blah, blah. Like,
we're not gonna. What he ends up becoming.
It doesn't matter. But, like, he's very over the top and verbose and loud and shrill. And I was watching it last night, and I was wondering how much of his accusations against Robin Williams' character are true, whether or not he really is withholding of his affections or mean to him, or whether or not they actually are physically, you know,
sometimes
harmful
it seems
against
like
each
he's
other.
A little dramatic.
She's very dramatic and so funny. And then there's that really beautiful, poignant scene where Albert is trying to pass as like the gunkle, right? The gay uncle, or just the uncle in general, but is, you know, crosses his legs and is wearing that pop of pink socks because, you know, he can't resist still being himself when he's trying to play a straight man. And then he's like, I know what I am. I know that I'm over the top. I know that I'm flamboyant, but what's worse, me trying to pretend to be straight or me appearing as who I am, basically? Because there was no way he was going to ever pass as a straight man. And I found Albert's storyline to be beautiful and poignant. And when he shows up in that goddamn wig, it's the funniest fucking thing. And on top of it, I love that Gene Hackman's character falls for it and just can't believe that, you know, Mrs. Coleman is a man because she does it so well. And Nathan Lane is effortlessly beautiful in this movie. The chemistry that he shares with Robin Williams is perfection. I mean, for fuck's sakes, the walking like John Wayne scene,
It's so good.
It's so
Oh man.
good. This will always be one of Nathan Lane's defining roles for me because it's the role that I grew up with. But as an older woman who now can appreciate acting and the queer identity even more, like there's so nuanced and it's so fresh. Like it's so real for this day too. Like I love it. I love it.
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman. We haven't had a chance to talk about Gene Hackman yet on this podcast.
No, especially since he died.
No.
We haven't talked
What a tragic
about
death, too. It's such a tragic end for one of our greatest actors.
one of our great, if not our greatest actor, and
for a long, I mean,
for our generation.
He's up there.
And I know
with
he was multiple people's generation.
Yeah.
He was acting since the early 60s. And of course, my parents' age knew who he was, and people my age know who he is. And unfortunately, younger people will never really get to appreciate being able to see a new Gene Hackman movie.
No, I mean, it'll be new for them, but
Sure.
The last movie he did was Welcome to Mooseport in 2004.
When he was just like, okay, I'm retiring now. That's it.
My favorite Gene Hackman role will always be as Royal Tenenbaum in the Royal Tenenbaums. Caveman is not the biggest fan of the Royal Tenenbaums.
It's fine.
But
it's a fine movie.
It remains my favorite.
I mean, he did
Wes
get a
Anderson film.
He did get a Golden Globe for the Royal Tenenbaums for best performance
I
from
think
an actor.
if we rewatched that movie sometime soon, you might view it differently.
I probably would. It's been a long time. And
but that character, I mean, first of all, that character is my dad. Like Royal Tenenbaum and my father are more or less the same person. I still to this day say "Let's shake ass," which is one of his lines from that film, and he's perfect in it. He's perfect in that film.
Yeah.
He has been in a ton of movies.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's been acting since the early 60s.
Yeah.
He got Critics' Choice Awards and Academy Awards for both Unforgiven and The French Connection.
I've never seen Unforgiven. Or I probably watched it with my parents but didn't pay attention to it.
I haven't seen Unforgiven, but I have seen The French Connection.
I haven't seen that either.
There are certain movies that I will always remember him having great, first, you would never know it. You would never know it, but he was in Young Frankenstein because he keeps his face pretty covered.
Does he play the old man by the river?
Yeah, he's like a blind man, and and you'd never know because he doesn't. They're not trying to show off who he is. He's just doing a little cameo. Of course, him as Lex Luthor is really fun and pretty cheesy too.
So over the top.
Especially by the time you get to Superman 4. One of my favorite Gene Hackman performances is from Crimson Tide with Denzel Washington.
Love Crimson Tide.
I love that movie so much. I love
my
submarine.
Parents loved the film.
I love submarine movies because
you do,
between Crimson Tide and
Hunt for Red October.
Plus, it's a big part of the most recent Mission Impossible movie.
What about Down Periscope?
Down Periscope is hilarious and great submarine. But Crimson Tide is amazing, and of course Gene Hackman's great. And no, he's also in Heist, which is I think an underrated movie in general. Written and directed by David Mamet, which I think a lot of people know him. Danny DeVito, Delroy Lindo, Sam Rockwell, a bunch of people are in Heist. It's a really fun, like jewel thief type movie.
A career jewel thief finds himself at tense odds with his longtime partner, crime boss, and sends his nephew to keep watch. Interesting. I've never seen this film.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Gene Hackman was one of the best, and he's great in The Birdcage. They're all great. But he plays the conservative senator who is like the head of the coalition of family values or something like that, which was such a thing that they would have had in the 90s, right? Like, oh, there's now it's suddenly acceptable to be queer, to be brown, or to be, anything other than a white person. And so conservative Republicans were like, even then, we're like, oh, no, we need to hold on to American values, meaning the white American nuclear family.
Yeah.
And the idea that everything his life and his work crumbles around him because he hitches his wagon to another senator who ends up dying in the bed of an underaged black sex worker.
Yes.
That would have been perfect fodder for the 90s, right? Like, you and I are both 90s kids. I could have totally seen that sort of thing happening to a Republican senator in the 90s.
In the 90s, because you think the 90s, it's when they can't get over these issues, and they just never will, because almost 30 years, over 30 years later, we're still, like, if the same Republican
if this happened
politician,
to Ted Cruz, first of all, the internet would never let it go.
I don't know, because lately, like, we've been listening to another podcast where they're just like, oh yeah, back in the day where you say or do one bad thing and then you're just done. Now it's like,
how many politicians were completely undone because of extramarital affairs?
Yeah, but now
it doesn't matter.
Now you can, how many felonies can you rack up and still be praised as an amazing politician?
Oh, well, but I could still see it happening.
I could still see like a lesser senator. Yeah. Like, Trump's one thing, I guess, because Trump can do no wrong. But yeah, no, if it were to happen to a lesser senator today, especially one who has been preaching nothing but
conservative values,
straight, and you have to be straight. You can only marry whites. And,
like that dude. I don't even remember his name, and I'm not going to bother looking it up because fuck that guy. But that dude that got caught in the bathroom foot tapping scandal. Remember, it was like there was a high-ranking Republican senator who got caught, basically trolling for ass in a men's bathroom in an airport.
Nice.
It not only did it undo his career, but people never let it go. I still think about foot tapping when I'm in bathrooms. Diane Wiest.
Oh, I love Diane Wiest.
So, Diane Wiest, of course, is a consummate character actress who's been around forever. She's fantastic. But I think that for you and me, Caveman, Diane Wiest became a joke.
We do know her for a main reason.
And
more than any.
We were at home, a young married couple, watching a random movie that we discovered called The 10. And The 10 is a film that was...
I still only saw that once.
Only saw it once. I would love to rewatch it.
It's never showing on anything.
It's never showing on anything. We'd probably have to buy it off of streaming. But it was a movie starring Paul Rudd and a lot of other people. Mm-hmm. And it is about the 10 Commandments, right? It's different stories about the 10 Commandments. And at the end of the movie, Paul Rudd, who's sort of the main character of this film, has gone away for a while. And when he comes back, he has married Diane Wiest. Mm. And it was funny to us then because, Diane Wiest is just this, great character actress. And I don't even think she was in it. I think because I can't even find her name. I can't find it on her IMDb. So I think they just talked about how his character had married Diane Wiest. And we found that hysterical. And ever since then, anytime we see Diane Wiest in anything, we laugh about it. Of course, it then made it even funnier when Brooklyn Nine-Nine had its character that Joe Truglio played, Boyle, being in love with Diane Wiest. And the famous Wiest infection. But yeah, Diane Wiest is a fantastic actress. You know her from a ton of things, but I think that there's a whole generation that knows her most as being one of the crazy aunties in Practical Magic, along with Stockard Channing. And in fact, my coworkers and I were just talking about Practical Magic and Diane Wiest and Stockard Channing, because we couldn't remember Stockard Channing's name. And Practical Magic is one of my favorite films. Like my favorite, female-centric, comfort movies, for sure, is Practical Magic. Sandra Bullock's incredible in it. Nicole Kidman is flawless in that film. Fucking Stockard Channing's great. Diane Wiest is great. who doesn't daydream that they're actually from a long line of witches and have magic inside of us, right? Like, it's such a great movie.
I think other people would probably know her as well as Winona Ryder's mom in Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah. She's always has that kind of like pursed face and sort of like, conservative look about her, right? She's so good at playing the like conservative mom. And it fits perfectly into the Birdcage because she is the conservative wife, who just is A, trying to keep her family together, B, trying to keep her husband going and from not eating sugar to his death. Because I love the idea that he's like a sugar fiend and is constantly chewing on chocolates, and she's trying to prevent him from doing that. I love Diane Wiest. She's wonderful.
Yeah, she was also in Lost Boys.
The 10th Kingdom, which people fucking were insanely crazy about. She was in 48 episodes of Law & Order over the course of 2 years. Oh, and 2 episodes of SVU. Once you get into the Law & Order franchise, you're pretty much set in terms of residuals. She's done Schenectady, New York, Dan in Real Life. She's Diane Wiest. She's done a ton of things, and we will
long
may she reign.
67 projects since the 70s. Well, now that we talked about the parents, Callista Flockhart plays the hoping to be wife of
the 18-year-old wife.
18, yeah, she looked real 18. Like, I guess she was young, but she was no 18.
She was 30 when she filmed this movie.
God damn it.
She was 30, and
30.
And the son was like 28, and they're playing a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old. To be
19.
fair.
They said 19 because they've been dating for a year.
No, they said that she's not
18.
yet 19.
Yeah.
So the implication is that they started dating when she was 17. But I couldn't remember her name as anything other than Ally McBeal. And luckily Caveman couldn't remember Ally McBeal, but remembered her name as Callista Flockhart.
Yeah.
She's so fucking funny in this movie. I don't know how much time you actually spent watching her facial expressions, but she has some hysterical facial expressions in this movie, especially when she's talking to her family or her family's talking about the wedding and just the way that she reacts to it. She's so good. Of course, everybody knows her from Ally McBeal. That's kind of her biggest thing. I mean, she's done a lot before and a lot since, but Ally McBeal really was the big thing. Now we know her as Mrs. Harrison Ford, which they've been together for a long enough time that I'm like, you know what? Good for them.
Good for them.
And apparently they are bringing back Ally McBeal for some sort of reboot or
of course,
redo,
every
sequel,
old
revival.
Yeah, every old like 90s, early 2000s show's got to come back.
I
was
going to say, she was in a series called Brothers and
I was just gonna
Sisters
say,
for 110 episodes?
Which was just as big as Ally McBeal.
What was the
112.
show even on?
And Brothers and Sisters on IMDb is a higher rated show than Ally McBeal.
God damn.
So
Sally Field?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't for me because I never heard of it.
Oh, yeah, no. It was definitely one of those, like, family drama series that I just couldn't watch.
But it kept her employed for 5 years.
Good for her.
Yeah. So, I mean, and then she did Supergirl while it was on.
For a long... I mean, she's got 20-something episodes.
I remember she was the first episode. She was the person that she's like...
Doesn't she work at the newspaper?
She comes up with the term Supergirl.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, why girl? Why can't it be a woman? And she's like, I'm a girl. And that's how they...
Yeah. I really enjoyed the first 2 seasons of Supergirl. I kind of fell off after that.
Now she's doing Invincible, where she plays a character named April.
You do love Invincible.
I do. It's a great show.
I can't get behind that show myself.
That's all right. You don't have to.
Yeah, no, it is. The character that she plays in this particular movie, though, Barbara, I love that moment when she has to basically choose which family she's going to support, right? Either the one she wants to marry into or her current family. And she just goes, I really would have liked to have you as my family. I always found that line reading to be so sweet and very, very pure. But yeah, she's lovely in it. Her partner, her boyfriend, Val Goldman, is played by Dan Futterman?
Sure.
Futterman.
Yeah,
Futterman. I don't know him from anything but The Birdcage, despite the fact that I have seen some of the things he has been in.
Yeah, like I've seen Capote.
Yes. to be fair, he has directed, or he has produced a lot of things.
He got to be in an episode of Brothers and Sisters with Calista Flockhart.
Yeah, I don't recognize a lot of Dan Fetterman's. Like, I've seen some of these things. Like, I remember watching A Mighty Heart when it came out. I'm sure I saw him in Will and Grace because I watched that entire series a couple of times. I never did watch Sex and the City, and I never will. But yeah, he has done a good handful of things. But
a small handful, like 29 projects since 1991, but hasn't been in anything since 2014.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also done work as a producer and writer. He's been a producer on a couple different TV shows. One is called The Looming Tower. The other one's called American Rust, which American Rust I've heard things about. 19 episodes. It's currently, or I think it might have just ended in 2024. Plus he's a
screenwriter.
A screenwriter for the same two shows.
And upcoming screenwriter for the Bruce Lee biopic. So, you know, he's still... Oh, he wrote Foxcatcher? Interesting.
He did. Wow.
So, yeah, he's still enjoying his career, you know, less behind the...
less in front of the camera, more behind, and which is... He may enjoy writing and producing more. And, I thought he did a great job. He's got a very sweet, kind face.
Yeah.
He's very sweet and kind to...
Well, I mean, if anything, he's kind of the antagonist of the film. Like, the nerve of him to go and ask his parents to pretend to be straight.
Something that he's not.
You know, to strip the house in less than 24 hours.
Especially to spring it on him like out of nowhere. Like, hey, I'm getting married. By the way, you need to act straight and get rid of all this gay shit out of your house. Which, all the stuff that they were taking out of the house, he's supposed to be like this Greek... Attaché. Yeah. You would think that somebody who's in Greece or around Greece long enough would bring home some interesting statues.
Yeah, I mean, like Neptune could have been there easily.
Yeah.
But, you they just wanted to try to make it... Just because it has a
penis on it?
Yeah. Oh, fuck, when he picks up that statue by the penis. The physical comedy in this movie is so
all just so
good. Great. We got a couple more people to talk about in this cast. Hank Azaria as Agador. Fucking... Look, say what you want about the cultural problems behind some of Hank Azaria's biggest characters, right? Like, he is way over the top flamboyant. In this movie, of course, we all know Apu. He's so fucking funny. The physical comedy that comes out of this man in this movie is insane. The fact that they had to put him in such big shoes and have him clomp around and constantly falling... And it's hysterical every time. Agador practically steals the movie from everybody else. What about the shrimps? Like, he's great. Hank Azaria has done 1,000 things.
Oh, he's been in so much stuff since...
He was filming Heat and The Birdcage at the same time.
Really?
Yeah. And, like, he's done so much. And we love him. Like, he's fucking Hank Azaria.
You know, earlier we were talking about Mystery Men.
Yeah.
And
he's in that.
Yeah, he's in that. He's great in that.
You fall asleep to The Simpsons almost nightly.
Yeah.
And he's there in
he's been a familiar voice for
roles.
a long part of my life.
Yeah.
He was in the really shitty American remake of Godzilla from the 90s.
With Matthew Broderick.
Yeah. But still funny in it. Like, it doesn't take away his performance is still fun. Next, we've got Christine Baranski.
Oh, Christine Baranski. One of the world's most beautiful women. She's got a very particular look, but she's stunning. And she has been a Broadway actress forever. She's been on stage and screen forever. I mean, for God's sakes, Mamma Mia, Chicago, The Good Wife, The Good Point, The Good Things that came after The Good Wife, and all of the fucking...
I mean, she's a singer, which I think is probably the reason why she still does Broadway stuff. I mean, she's
got legs for days. And she plays the mother in this movie, so the mother of Val, literal one-time romantic partner to Robin Williams' character.
She was also in Welcome to Mooseport.
Yep. Yes, she was. Maybe she was the one that told Gene Hackman it was time to
I
retire.
think you need to retire. Look where you are.
Yeah, she's done voices.
It's okay for me to be on this set.
And everything.
You're Gene Hackman.
Her role, she has a small role in Chicago as Mary Sunshine, the main reporter. But she's a big part of the song Both Reach for the Gun, which is my favorite. Okay, Chicago's great. Chicago is a musical that I would love to cover on this podcast because what a fucking musical it is. What a flawless fucking musical it is. But everybody talks about Cell Block Tango. And yes, that song is incredibly sexy and incredibly well done. But they both reached for the gun. My favorite song on the soundtrack. The hardest one to sing, which I can sing very well, by the way, from a lot of practice of me and Jessie being in her car, belting out that song at the top of our lungs as we drove through the desert. And it's just also one of the more fun performances. And, Christine Baranski is, again, one of those character actresses that pops up and shit. And you're like, oh, hey, her. And she's perfect.
She was in Sybil, which we talked about when we did episode 69.
Noise!
That great episode of Frasier where she played a very mean, radio talk show psychologist. Yeah. She was one of the main Who's in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Christine Baranski is amazing. She's just amazing. And she has a small part in this film, but her presence is wildly welcomed.
And just a real quick, we don't have to talk about them too much, but real quick, couple other actors. Tom McGowan, who Maggie and I mainly know from Frasier.
Yes, as the station manager, Kenny.
Yeah, and then Grant Heslov, who was his photographer buddy who chased them to South Beach. He's been in a bunch of stuff like Argo and Good Night, Good Luck.
He's very good friends with George Clooney.
Oh,
and
that might be why he was in those two movies.
A producing partner with him.
Okay.
So
Ides of March as well, which is another Clooney film. So this movie was distributed by United Artists, who have a very familiar logo at the beginning of the movie because they made so many movies from...
They made so many movies.
From in my lifetime, it was like the 80s and 90s. I was trying to look at some of the early films that they had done. Some of them go back to the 50s, but then United Artists has been around since as early as 1918.
Weren't they created by,
Charlie Chaplin was one of its founders.
That's what I thought. I was gonna say, wasn't Charlie Chaplin one of his?
He couldn't get his parent company, First National Pictures, to increase his production budget. I don't know for what movie, but or maybe just in general, he wanted a higher production budget. So him, Mary Pickford, and Douglas Fairbanks.
I know both of those names. Huge artists of their time.
Yeah, they got together with D.W. Griffith, which I believe is a
was a producer, correct?
Yes. They joined together and created a company in 1919, and they each held 25% stake in the company. Eventually it went to, I think it sold, it's traded hands. Transamerica purchased 98% of their stock back in the 60s. MGM got a hold of it eventually.
But from basically 1919 to the 1960s. That's a
long time for any company, especially a production company, and to do well.
It would be like if Tom Cruise, Zendaya, and fucking, George Clooney and Martin Scorsese got together and created their own production company. That was a sort of level of holy shit.
DreamWorks is a big combination of high-end producers and directors.
But that's producers and directors, not the actors themselves.
Sure, okay.
You've got to take into account that it was the actors that were I'm kind of fed up with my current contracts. Let's make one for our own.
Big actors end up doing a lot of times. Yeah. Ben Stiller's got his own.
But everybody's got their own production. Got his own. Fucking Sandler's got his own.
Yeah. But, okay, so I know this is a long way of talking about
where did United Artists go? Because that was the question that I asked you. I said when the logo popped up and you went, "Oh my God, United Artists!" I went, "Where did they go?"
Well, because they were owned by MGM, and MGM was bought out by Amazon. So of course now all of United Artists movies are kind of all under the banner of Amazon.
Jeff Bezos owns what Charlie Chaplin created.
There are a few movies from United Artists that are owned by Fox, or not Fox, Warner Brothers. So they might be on HBO, but who knows?
Crazy. God, it's crazy what the business of Hollywood what came from and what it has become.
Yeah.
But that sort of shit I'm fascinated by, but that's not the podcast.
No, and maybe season 2, we just talk about
we're just like
Hollywood
deep dive
history.
into Hollywood history. I could do an entire episode
Who
on the
wants
Chateau
to
Marmont
hear about how every production company was created
and where they went. And the Chateau Marmont and the fucking Brown Derby and all the other like big Hollywood landmarks that I'm obsessed with. That doesn't matter. Let's go back to South Beach, to the Birdcage Theater.
In the 90s.
Back in the 90s.
Where everything was at least more 90s.
And a little bit, I'm not going to say better in any way, shape, or form.
It wasn't better.
But the rose-colored glasses are sure looking good right now.
We were teenagers in the 90s, and when you're teenagers in any decade...
I wasn't a teenager in the 90s. I was a kid in the 90s.
You're still a kid to teenager.
I was a kid to teenager in the 90s, but my memories are growing up in the 90s, not the 80s.
Yeah.
I might have been born in the early 80s, but I don't remember much of that decade because from 0 to 6 to 5, I don't remember a whole hell of a lot of my life. Little snippets, family stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't matter.
School and birthdays.
Yeah, but I don't remember like the 80s-ness of it all. The 90s I remember. I remember the pop culture. I remember the music. I remember the movies. I remember the news, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was more my, like, growing up. I consider myself a 90s kid. Watching this movie, like, there's so much that is problematic. Not terribly so. Honestly, I kind of thought going into this movie, I thought it was going to be a lot more problematic. In terms of how a 2005 viewpoint is, right? I thought it was going to be dated in ways that made me feel very uncomfortable. And there wasn't as much of that as I thought. Yeah. Like, honestly, the joke that made me the most uncomfortable about this movie is when... It's how it is played off the trauma that the young African-American sex worker who the senator dies on top of. As a 40-year-old woman, I think of that and I'm like, wow, that's really fucking traumatic for this young underage. And having just watched Taxi Driver, I'm like, here's this child prostitute who got pimped out to a U.S. senator and he died on top of her. That's fucking horrible.
Oh, yeah.
And it is played seriously for jokes. Even when they show her and she's like, and the way that she does it is very over-exaggerated in her blackness. When she says, he was still smiling, so I thought it was okay. Basically, she sounded like a stereotypical black 90s tween. And then that gets made fun of throughout the rest of the movie, including by a bunch of white cops, white male adult cops. Up until watching that, I think I always kind of laughed at that part too, because it's played for a joke.
I think it still is funny.
It's funny, but it's
the way that they're showing it is funny. The way that they're playing it off.
Yeah, the way
funny.
that they're playing it off with a sense of humor, but
so serious.
I see through that to the serious side of it.
It's also like Jojo Rabbit, which we talked about
They're making fun of a lot of serious things.
They're making fun of a lot of serious things that happen in serious moments in history.
And satire is very important for reminding us who we are and making fun of the powers that be to remind us that they're human and they deserve to be taken down a peg or 6 or 47. I don't know. I guess it's hard for me to rationalize that because I have some like mom guilt and white guilt, and I know too much of the world these days.
They're trying to make it like, what is the worst thing we could say about the far right conservative?
It wasn't just that she's underage. Yeah. It wasn't just. In fact, the joke is always, they don't care that she's underage. Right. They care that she's black.
Right.
That joke gets made several times.
Well, that was the one. That was the time when they it was like underage. Oh no.
Black.
Black, and then that's when Gene Hackman's
is like, ooh.
Yeah, and Gene Hackman was just like, she was black.
Yeah, like that's the joke. Is not that she's underage; it's that she's black.
Well, and that is the joke.
I know that that's
because of
the
how
joke.
Upsetting that would make
To a conservative. I know.
voter.
But as a modern liberal woman of 2025, I saw that with a different view lens, right? Because it was hard for me to separate it and turn it into comedy when I'm like, oh my God, that's fucking terrible. That poor little girl. Like, you know, the world has tainted me too much that has made that joke harder on me, right?
Clutching those pearls.
And I've become a bit of a pearl clutcher lately. Like, oh my God, it's a family pride. Put on some clothing. Children are there. Put your titties away. Like, is that too much to ask? Have your titties out at Pride, sure. But at family pride, when there are toddlers running around, I don't know, maybe put your titties away. I don't know why that upset me so much, but it did.
Toddler's just going to be like, ooh, food.
Okay, you're right. But my 12-year-old
Your
child
12-year-old
was like,
just like,
fuck, I don't know what to do in this situation.
He was like, I couldn't look away fast enough.
But
all right, buddy.
All right, calm down, pal. But anyways. So there were very few jokes outside of Senator Jackson and his demise that I found tasteless or aged poorly or, you know, making fun of gay people too much. I mean, even Hank Azaria said he got the blessings of his own queer friends to play Agador that flamboyantly and that over the top, right? Like,
which is why I don't.
It was
I don't
done
think
with
you
a lot
have
of
to,
love.
I know, which is why looking at this from a 2025 lens.
Which, I mean, you kind of have to.
You don't have to. You could try to watch a movie from like the point of view of being through the time. By also pointing out its flaws, you can point it out, but it doesn't have to be like such a crippling.
Well, it doesn't make this movie any less.
It's great.
Perfect in my eyes.
It's great.
This movie is great.
Robin Williams
has
has this amazing line towards the beginning of the film.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait to tell you my favorite line of this film.
He delivers it so well, and I was going to rewind it and watch it again in the moment, but I didn't because I was still laughing at it. But it was when he delivers that that line of, "Let me tell you why."
So I have something to tell you. Yes. But I don't want you to get how you get.
Oh, God.
I'm getting married. I didn't want to tell you over the phone. It's a girl. I met her at school. It's this wonderful. What do you? Are you upset?
But let me tell you why.
Just the way he delivered the "Let me tell you why"
Yes.
was so Robin Williams.
I know.
And
he was so real in this movie. Armand feels like a realized character in the way that, like, I could just see him existing anywhere. Sometimes you watch a movie like Agador Spartacus feels like a caricature, right? Like, I'm sure there's some people out there that are that flamboyant, but it feels a little bit of a funny caricature that they put into the movie. Armand is a real character.
Yeah.
And another thing that I kept being brought back to was how much Armand loves Albert, because he's constantly choosing Albert over Val every time. He might agree to go along with Val's like harebrained, screwy idea because he wants to support his son, right? He's trying to be a supportive father, but when push comes to shove, every single time he chooses Albert. Every time Albert is pissed off and storms out, he goes after Albert. He is the one that's like, fine, let's butch you up. I'm going to teach you, right? Albert is the love of his life, and he knows that, and he's trying, even though he seems like he's kind of an aloof partner to an extent. And I was thinking about that because I was like, how are you with somebody for 20 years at least, right? Or around 20 years? Because I think the implication is that he met Albert shortly after Val was conceived.
Yeah.
Albert raises his child. They raise them together in the home as a family. But it still seems like their relationship is sort of like unclear as to what exactly it is. Right? If that makes sense. Like, it seems like Armand is a bit aloof and a bit closed off. And obviously Albert is over the top and dramatic, and they've got a professional relationship, they've got a personal relationship, they've got a familiar relationship. And I was like, why do they keep going back to this like thing as if you don't expect these two to actually ever call them each other their like husbands? But I think that it comes from the generation that these men were born in. early baby boomers, right?
They
They're
were probably
very
born in the mid to late 40s.
Yeah, because if he
These
was 50,
characters? Yeah,
he's 50 in
it's the
96,
90s, yeah.
in mid-90s. So yeah, he was born in 5, so he's a very early baby boomer, raised by shut-off parents, where being gay was a big thing, and that you weren't allowed to be, right? Raised in a religious atmosphere. Like, if you think about when these men were born, and the lives they probably lived growing up, before they were able to be openly gay men in the early 90s, which was a very hard thing to do, you know, living an openly gay lifestyle. Like, they had to go through hell for that. So it kind of makes sense as to why, and being single parents, you know, raising a kid. Like, so it's so much, there's so much layered nonsense to this that I understand more now. But Armand loves Albert and is constantly there to pick him, defend him, love him. And even though he makes jokes at his expense, which is, I think, just Robin Williams' love language, you know, not even Armand, just Robin Williams' love language, you know, he's always there to support his husband. And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see that kind of love on the big screen as the main romantic pairing in a film from the mid-90s.
Which is why I really look forward to watching someday the French version, the original of this, because I'd like to see what the French in the 80s, 70s,
70s, 80s, yeah.
78, I think, is when that movie was made. So
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to know how the French handled it in the late 70s.
Well, they were always a little bit more welcoming to that sort of stuff.
Europe has been a
that
little
sort
more
of stuff, queerdom. You know, like Europeans have always been considered a little more queer by Americans. I mean, America was built on a deeply problematic and conservative Christian background, right? I mean, the Quakers were considered too outrageously religious to exist in England, so they kicked their asses over here. And that was helped create this country, right? A lot of the earliest settlers of Europe to America were like the fucking people that were too fucking religious. Get the fuck out of Italy and England, because we actually want to be in love with our queer people, and so go to America and fuck it up over there. And they have for so long. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how France viewed it, right? Because it always has been a story of a gay couple being introduced to a conservative couple.
Yeah.
And the conservative couple is so fucking funny. Diane Wiest and Gene Hackman give stellar performances. Gene Hackman plays it very screwball-y, right?
Yeah.
Even though he's a conservative senator, the way he's acting is delightfully over the top for what you would think a conservative senator would
I mean,
be.
he's like, the way he talks with Ron Williams and Nathan Lane, the way he looks at Nathan Lane's character, just
that speech, the toast that he
Oh my
gives,
God, the
that
fact
basically turns into a political speech about America, is so fucking funny.
That's such
and it
great
is
writing.
That's something else that I noticed about this movie watching it. In that scene, Gene Hackman has to deliver a 3 or 4 minute monologue. That's all him. And there are these really long, awkward pauses, so he has to build those in, right? And be that awkward. The level of acting to take that speech and turn it into one of the most uncomfortable scenes I have ever seen. So uncomfortably funny. It's one of those ones that it's very funny to start, and then it goes on so long it's cringy. And then it goes back to being funny, which the Pythons were so good at.
Yeah.
Like, it's spectacularly good, and Gene Hackman is great, but Diane Wiest is essentially the straight man in all of this.
Yeah, because every other character is being goofy.
Yeah, and she is trying to just keep it together. I can't imagine how hard it is to be a conservative woman, but especially a conservative woman back in the 90s, because you really had to be taught and brought up to be a certain way, to go against everything in the feral nature that is womanhood, right? Because we feel so much. Diane Wiest is so fucking funny as a straight man, because every other character is flamboyant and insane and over the top in their own particular way, and she is the straight-laced character just trying to keep it all together, right? She's trying to fix the problems for her husband, like she always has, oh, well, you know what, the scandal, what's better for a scandal than a wedding? Even though it's something that she didn't agree with. But now she's starting to see, she's very smart, this character. She's starting to see how it can help her husband's career. And even the daughter's in on it, which I find interesting, because I think she just wants to get married so badly.
Yeah.
But the scheming that Diane Weiss does, and then all of that leading up to, somebody has to like me best. Because she's so jealous of Nathan Lane's character. And I love that. I love how instantly sus and jealous and annoyed she is when Nathan Lane comes in drag and is putting on this just over-the-top conservative stereotype performance. And it's so funny.
Like, not just agreeing with them, but like, just like going like,
way beyond it.
Like, don't just kill the babies, kill the mothers.
That way they go down with the
ship.
And the fact that conversation is still being had. Well, I don't know. Maybe as a woman, I can find abortion funnier, but I am not a underage African-American prostitute, so I can't find the humor in that. But as a woman, I can find the humor in abortion. Drag Gene Hackman. They did him dirty.
Drag Gene Hackman.
They did Miss Gina Hackman dirty. I mean, for the effort that they put into having drag performers on set in the movie themselves, they were like, we're going to make Gene Hackman the ugliest woman you've ever seen. Because I believe in my soul. Like, fucking...
You don't think that maybe Gene Hackman just makes a really...
No, I don't. Because I've seen enough of RuPaul's Drag Race, especially in the episodes where they make over random people, to know if you're a good drag makeup artist, you can make anyone look beautiful. Detox could have taken Miss Gina Hackman and turned her into a fucking bombshell. But they did Gene Hackman dirty by putting him in drag in the worst possible way. And it's funny because then you think, oh, they had 5 minutes to do this and this was the best they did. They had quick drag time.
I was gonna say, it doesn't really take away from the scene because just him dressed up in drag, just period,
is funny.
Is really funny.
But the makeup is awful.
And then
because Calista Flockhart looks beautiful. Well, Calista Flockhart looks beautiful, and Diane Weiss looks beautiful. Nathan Lane looks beautiful, even though he's in boy drag. And it was also really nice seeing Armand return to his open blousey shirt, chest hair akimbo, chains, gold chains. I loved the return of Armand.
When they go to Christine Baranski's office, and Robin just wants time alone and there with her, and Albert has to sit out in the waiting room.
Oh my god. The receptionist.
But the receptionist is reading Nietzsche.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
Oh my god. And Albert's trying to read the fashion magazines and it just keeps huffing and throwing the magazines across the glass cabinet. Checking her watch and everything. God, the physical comedy in this movie, the way that every actor holds themselves. Nathan Lane is particularly brilliant in it. Of course, there's that scene where Robin Williams, Hank Azaria, and Dan Futterman are in the kitchen and with the soup. And Hank Azaria is holding the shrimp. The shrimps. And Robin Williams falls. That was on accident. That was a mistake. That's a blooper.
It's a great
right.
Blooper.
And they're all, you could see it in their faces. They're all desperately trying to keep it together.
I think I even wrote down. I think that's. I might have just shorthanded it to Williams' performance is so great in this film I think I wrote that right after he had fallen. Just somebody who can, because they kept it in because it was hilarious.
It's hilarious, yeah. You even hear Robin Williams break and laugh through his saying of the word "go." He's like, "Go,"
It's just. Oh, he does such a good job of just getting back up and keep going with the scene, and it just looks
having not
so
spilled the soup
effortless.
at all, too.
Holding onto that soup.
And when Hank Azaria drops the shrimp into the soup pot so unceremoniously, oh my god! And the bowls, the naked the naked Grecian pottery, which again you would expect if he's an attaché from Greece.
Yeah.
If he had bowls with ancient Roman, kind of
had that.
It would have been something gay,
It would have.
I've got a woman. Oh, you've got oh, that's a woman right there. Well, it's been a long time since I've seen one, but oh, Jesus Christ.
Speaking of physical comedy, Nathan Lane does this great part when he's dressed up in the suit and tie and
When
everything.
he's in boy drag. Yes.
And he sits down on the bed.
On like a chaise in front of the bed. So sort of like a bench in front of the bed.
He sits down and he puts his foot up on his knee.
Yeah.
And the pink sock, which I thought the pink sock
even
went so
from
well
the
with the
second
pinstripe.
Oh, it did, really. It was beautiful. Yeah. When he walks in from the room, and first he's walking very flamboyantly, and then he checks himself. Then he sits down, and then all the motions.
As soon as he sits down, it becomes a locked shot.
Yeah.
And it's just him sitting on that bench being uncomfortable.
Yes.
And it just stays that way. And I think because it's just staying on him and not going back to Robin and his son, it makes us uncomfortable because he's uncomfortable and we're not going back to Robin and his son. No. We're just watching somebody on screen be uncomfortable.
And then it turns back into being really funny.
Yeah.
And
because
then
it's taking so long.
Yeah.
And Nathan Lane's doing such a great job of
such an incredible performance.
Just sitting there being uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then that turns into the scene where he's like, I know I'm a lot. But what's worse, me being a lot or me failing at being straight? Like, because he knows he's not going to survive the night pretending to be a straight man. And he's saying to them, there's no way I can do this for you. So either, let me be me or I can't be a part of this. And I think he's hoping that they say, you can just be you and you could still be the gay uncle and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
instead
they're like,
gets upset and goes to his room.
Yeah.
They think he's just going to lock himself off for the night.
Yeah. Which, again, kind of goes back to just the characters are so wonderfully thought through. Like each and every character is so beautifully thought through.
Another funny line when it's before the parents come over. Mm-hmm. I think it's before the parents come over. But I think, and I'm pretty sure it was Ron Williams who said, "So this is hell, and there's a crucifix in it."
That's a great line.
That massive crucifix at the table.
So
it reminds me of that eagle in
Shrek 2.
Yeah.
Just that one looming piece of furniture. I would like to talk about just a couple more things when it comes to the Birdcage. One is my favorite piece of set art, or art on the set.
Yeah.
And the other one is my favorite line of the Birdcage. Because we could talk for hours and hours and hours about this film. It's great. If you haven't watched it and you've been listening up to this point, fucking go put it on. It's one of the best farces. It's one of the best comedies come out of the 90s.
Unfortunately.
Well, or just buy it because it's perfect. But either way, give it a shot. But there is a portrait that hangs in their living room. That is, at one point, it's just referred to as the Kirby. And it's of a balding, very masculine man in a blue dress with one of the spaghetti straps off the shoulder, and he's holding a rose at his chest. I've always found that portrait to be strikingly beautiful. I like art. I love portraits. I love a very unique portrait too.
Sure.
As I indicate, the IKEA art that we have behind us, that's actually very strikingly beautiful and very, you wouldn't expect that's from IKEA. Anyways, so it's called Self-Portrait by John Kirby, and it was painted in 1987. It's just something that even as a kid, when I saw that for the first time, I was like, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's striking and it demands your attention. I love paintings that force you, like your eye, you have to look at it.
You have to look at it, yeah.
It's just...
But even as a young kid who was unaware of her own queerness, when I saw this movie for the first time, I was like, that's really beautiful, and it made me feel emotions, right? And I think that now, thinking back on it, it was probably just my own sort of queerness, latching onto the queerness of this painting and being like, oh my God, that's incredible. Google that. Google Self-Portrait by John Kirby, Kirby, from 1987. It's a beautiful picture.
And it's also you'll see it in the movie.
Oh yeah, you can't miss it.
Your eyes just go to it.
Instantly to it. As much as your eyes go to the phallic statue
pieces around
that he
house.
picks up by the dick.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
All right, so favorite line.
What do you think my favorite line is in this film?
Ooh, I don't know.
Really? Because as soon as you hear it, you're going to be like, oh yeah, no, that's the one. I will give you a hint. It's at the very end of the film.
Okay. I bet I know what it is then.
What is it?
Is it before or after, or is it?
It's just take a guess.
Is it during the wedding or before that?
Just take a guess.
I was going to say it's probably, lady, not for $1 million. No, because I wrote that one down because that was my another one of my favorites because it reminds me of Some Like It Hot with Nobody's Perfect.
Nobody's Perfect.
Which I kind of wish the movie ended as soon as that guy said "Lady Not for Million."
Well,
but
because then we never would have gotten the delivery.
Yeah, that was pretty. Funny
and that I think is one of if not the last line in the. I think the only thing after that is like I now pronounce you man of life and Mazel Tov and like Albert crying, but it's just one of the drag queens from the club. And first of all, the wedding is hysterical because you've got the entire conservative bride side staring over at the entirely queer groom side.
Yeah.
It's already a Christian and Jewish wedding.
Yeah.
And and they're just staring at all these queens and all of them so back. And then one of the women's like, which one's the mother? Like all of that stuff, just the stupid shit conservatives say. But Bob Dole is gorgeous is not only an excellent, excellent line, but also the way that that queen says it. Flawless. I love the Birdcage so much. And I'm really, really glad we got to talk about it.
So Maggie.
Yes, Caveman? You asked me if I was ready.
I did.
I said yes.
I know.
And I was so not ready. I'm really sorry. Anyways, just hit it.
I'm going to be honest with you. It makes me feel like I'm this little boy sitting in the corner of the sandbox while everybody gets to play with my toys. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my toys and I'm going to go home.
That was from Sucker Punch, wasn't it?
That was from Sucker Punch.
Aha! I knew it. I only saw that movie once, but as soon as I heard what he was saying, I was like, this sounds like what that creep from Sucker Punch would say. Yeah, Oscar Isaac was in Sucker Punch, everybody. Do you remember? First of all, listeners, do you remember Sucker Punch?
No, nobody remembers Sucker Punch.
Exactly. Secondly, did you know that Oscar Isaac was in it? Also, no. But he does sing a cover of the song Love is a Drug, and it is fucking fire.
Yeah, he sings and dances.
He sings and he dances before he ever sang and danced in any other movie, and people forget that it exists. And it's because they're like, oh, fucking Sucker Punch.
And
Jesus
then he sings
Christ.
and dances in Ex Machina.
Yeah.
And then
he sings. He doesn't dance, but he does sing in Inside Llewyn Davis.
Of course.
And apparently, he is doing some sort of. I don't know if it is a musical or if it is a movie about a musician, but he will be soon doing a film about a musician where he gets to sing because I watched a interview with him from the carpet of Tudum. Still so fucking stupid. And somebody's like, are you excited to get back into a musical mentality again? And he's talking about how, yes, it's something he had wanted to do for a long time, but just needed to find the right role. All of this to say, Oscar Isaac, do more musicals.
He's working on it.
I know, but I need more. Like, I have a feeling that what's to come is probably going to be a very serious, very lovely film, much like Inside Llewyn Davis. And I want fucking Oscar Isaac as Billy Flynn in Chicago. Like, I want a Broadway Oscar Isaac musical. Please give it to me.
Maybe that's what he'll finally do. Maybe he'll do some Broadway stuff.
Well, he has done something on Broadway. It was called The Sign Inside of Sidney Barstow's Window or something like that. I'm never going to get a chance to see it.
Right.
Anyways.
Well, Maggie.
Yes.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
First question.
Uh-huh.
Do you think this movie would have been better with the presence of the Oscar Isaac?
No. If they were to remake this movie, I'd be all for it. But I wouldn't want to put... If they were to remake this movie and have Oscar Isaac in it, I'd be 100% for that. If they were to do, a remake and he was a part of it, absolutely sign me up. I would not put him into this movie, and it definitely wouldn't make him any better.
Well, then second question, I guess if they remade it, but it doesn't have to be because usually the question is this movie specifically.
Yeah.
So which role would you put him in?
Agador?
That's what I was going to say.
Because I want to see him in that Speedo. That G-string Speedo.
Because and
Agador is from Guatemala, so
right, and that's not
Guatemalan-ness.
just the reason why I was picking him either. Was if you think about all these other characters, I feel like there are other actors who could do an Armand, another actor who could do Albert.
Like, if Pedro Pascal and Andrew Scott wanted to play Armand and Albert, that would be amazing. And yeah, Oscar Isaac could totally be Agador. Or the Senator. That would also be very funny, is if he played Senator Keeley.
Yeah, he could play the Senator.
Like, he could play Armand. He could play the Senator.
He could play them all.
He could play them all.
He has the ability to play every single one of these characters.
But I want to see him in a G-string
I think
Speedo.
it'd be really funny to see him like that fishnet top, or just walking
nipples out,
or just walking around in cut off jean shorts,
or a G-string Speedo.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Yeah,
yeah,
I want that.
Oh, especially that one scene where you just see Hank Azaria's full ass.
Yeah, and he's just like dancing at the pool and just like cocking it out. I
sure
would like to see that.
I think we know why Agador is the winner
for both of us, apparently. And that has been this month's bonus episode of Movie Mingle on the fantastic movie, The Birdcage. Wait, no, we never rated them. We never gave this movie our rating.
So, Maggie, what would you give The Birdcage?
It's 5 stars. It's a 5-star comedy. It always will be. Caveman?
I was going to go with 4.
For me, it might be a 5-star movie because of the nostalgia of having watched it my whole life and the joy of every time I watch this movie, it makes me happy. So I'm not saying it's a 5-star film in terms of like production, although it's very, very close.
Sure.
But because of what The Birdcage has meant to my life, I'm giving it 5 stars.
I get that. I understand that. Oh, that's why that's how we rate things. We're not professional critics.
No.
So a lot of times our explanations on why we like something is just like, because I like it. Deal with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, 4 stars.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. Of course, we want to wish a sincerely happy Pride to all of our loved ones on the Rainbow Mafia spectrum. We love you all very, very much. You are always safe and welcome here at Movie Mingle. And, just happy Pride and be safe out there. Join us next week where we will be talking about the fantastic film Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just going to be a really delightful rewatch for us. And we only have a handful of episodes left, friends. So 5 more. Yeah, that's insane. So thank you for being a part of this journey with us. We appreciate it as ever. Please review us 5 stars or whatever you think we deserve on your podcast platform of choice. Tell your friends and family and loved ones and bellmen about us because we want more listeners to enjoy this silliness. And most importantly, just take care of yourselves. You can always find us on Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd at movieminglepod. You can find us on YouTube at Movie Mingle Podcast and write us at movieminglepod@gmail.com with any of your questions, thoughts, comments, and concerns. We will see you next week, but until then, please take care of yourselves out there. Please be safe in this big, crazy, wide world of ours. And remember, Bob Dole is gorgeous. Now go mingle. Bye!
Are you an effective team?
We are an effective team.
Let them fight.
How did you just do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
Here on Caladan, we've ruled by air power and sea power. On Arrakis, we need to cultivate desert power.
Welcome, Mr. Beach. What's that bar? I'm a little confused.
Well, we wouldn't want that, would we?
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What is that?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Toga, toga, toga.